Welcome back, everybody. Today we've got 12 under-the-radar NFL free agents this offseason. I know you've probably heard names like George Pickens and Breece Hall, but these guys are a little bit more underrated and are quality guys that your team could sign and make a difference from day one. So drop a comment which one you want your team to sign, and feel free to hit that subscribe before we get into it. But without further ado, let's start at the bottom here with number 12. It's going to be Brian Robinson Jr. from the San Francisco 49ers. He obviously didn't get too much usage in 2025. I mean, Christian McCaffrey had over 400 touches on the year. However, he's still capable of being a bell cow, at least in my opinion. He was very efficient, over 4 yards per carry in Washington in 2024. It was seemingly just a late kind of ending of terms from them. They wanted to move forward with the 7th round rookie, and they never really could strike on a contract extension. So I think B-Rob could definitely get some money in free agency. He's still very, very capable of being, even if it's just a 1A, 1B situation. He kind of profiles like a David Montgomery type role that you could pair with an explosive running back. So even if like Miami got their hands on him just to upgrade Ollie Gordon, or a bunch of these other running back needing teams like New Orleans, if they wanted to pair him with Kamara, I would really like that. But I think a lot of teams are going to be interested. I think you could get him on a discount because he didn't touch the field too much in 2025. However, really, really like Brian Robinson. At number 11, we've got David Njoku. I think he's probably my second or third best tight end in this free agency cycle, and that's just because of the potential. I mean, don't let 1 year disguise you from how productive he really was. As soon as Harold Fannin came in, he kind of took a backseat role because they do the same thing. They're great yards after the catch, and they're great at high pointing in the red zone. However, you don't need two of those guys on the field at the same time, and it makes sense for Cleveland to go towards the youth as they continue their rebuild. And Njoku is definitely moving on. He made that known in press conferences. So I wouldn't be shocked if he kind of goes to a contending team. And I think any team would be lucky to have Njoku. He's a great veteran and is as explosive as they come in the pass game. Number 10 is going to be Romeo Doubs. Yes, he is a free agent. I know it's not a lot of talk because he's probably expected to stay in Green Bay. However, down the stretch, he was super effective, especially in the red zone on those 1 yard slant routes. However, also, he had over 100 receiving yards against the Bears in the playoffs. When they needed them the most, Dobbs was kind of their go-to guy along with Christian Watson. The Packers have cap space kind of issues here, so maybe they're not able to pay him top dollar. So any team like Pittsburgh or New Orleans to pair him with another wide receiver would be perfect. I think he's capable of being in that 1A, 1B situation, and I think he matches well with all the young quarterbacks and teams trying to take that next step or leap into the playoffs. I think he profiles very well for that. Moving off of him is going to be Isaiah Likely, another guy where, similar to David Njoku, they just paid Mark Andrews, and I'm not sure that they want to unload some more cap space on Isaiah Likely. Even if this offense has struggled recently, I think it might be time to part ways. And Isaiah Likely is super, super versatile in the pass game. He's athletic. He's kind of a hybrid type tight end. He plays almost like a wide receiver getting up the field. Any team is going to be lucky to have him. And a lot of these teams that don't have a tight end and are contending, whether it's Tampa Bay, even New England with Hunter Henry getting older, I think could be definitely interested in the market for Isaiah Likely. I think he's an under-the-radar type of guy because he really hasn't been used. I think the ceiling, he's just scratching at the surface of what he can actually become. I think he needs to be more of a focal point of whichever offense signs him, and I think they're going to do that. The team that signs him definitely wants him to be around long-term. He's still very young, obviously out of Coastal Carolina. He's very raw, and the potential is super, super high, so why not take the chance on Likely and see if you could develop him into a true star. And then after Likely, we've got number 8. It's going to be Rachaad White. I do have an early prediction. I think he ends up with Washington. I know I mentioned Brian Robinson earlier, but Rachaad White makes a lot of sense. He played college football with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. I think he profiles to be a good third down running back at this point of his career. I think it's a little bit underspoken that he played very well when Bucky Irving was missing time. He stepped in and was a great yards after contact running back. He was playing hard. He was getting all the tough yards, especially in the red zone. So I think he's capable of more than just the third down role. But for now, if he goes to Washington, I think he could be in that third down role just because he's a great pass protector and he can also catch out of the receiving game very, very well. I think Rachaad White is a name to remember. And then we got Dallas Goedert, another tight end here. It's a sneaky tight end free agency class. One team to keep your eye on would be the Carolina Panthers. They're kind of in this limbo period where you haven't paid Bryce Young just yet, so you don't want to tie all of your resources into the offensive playmakers. But I think Goddard kind of hinges that stretch a little bit too well, because you can sign him for like 1 to 2 years on good money, and really just make it so if Bryce Young performs well, that's amazing because you surround him with enough weapons where he can continue this role going forward. But if he doesn't, you know that you actually gave him adequate weapons so you can pull the plug whenever, and you're not tying up big money to Kyle Pitts or David Njoku. With Dallas Goedert getting a little bit older, he still has that playoff experience, which is so valuable to teams nowadays, and he knows how to win, and especially in the red zone. Maybe it was just Kevin Patullo, but Goddard was getting fed the ball, and I think teams are going to try and follow that same path and continue to feed him. So I think he could be featured in a prominent offense in 2026. But going after him, it's going to be Kenneth Gainwell, another guy that really came onto the radar in 2025. He had more receptions than DK Metcalf on the Steelers over the course of the season. And with Aaron Rodgers, he kind of had that check down ability to make guys miss in open space. And I think a lot of teams are going to be wanting that type of role. I mentioned Rachaad White as a third down running back. Well, Kenneth Gainwell is the ultimate third down back. He can even do it on early downs, getting chunk yardage. Good change of pace back. So I think Kenneth Gainwell could be a part of a committee going forward. And if you're the Steelers, it makes sense to move on. I mean, are you going to pay 2 running backs in your own backfield? You have Jaylen Warren, and you just drafted Caleb Johnson. So maybe you want to kind of build him up and develop him into being in that 1A, 1B situation. But that remains to be seen. At number 5, we've got Tyler Algier from the Atlanta Falcons. He was definitely in Bijan Robinson's shadow, but was super effective in the red zone. I know it's not to the happiness of fantasy football managers, but he got it done, and I see why they kept him in the game, because he has a nose for the end zone, over 4 yards per carry over the course of the season, and was very efficient. So I think Tyler Algier could actually make big money, whether the Jets move on from Breece Hall and go with Algier, or teams like New Orleans or Kansas City just decide that, hey, maybe Breece Hall isn't for me, or Kenneth Walker, and let's get a budget option that is a guy that could really make an impact on their team from day one. I think he's just scratching at the potential of what he could be, and obviously Atlanta wants him and they want to keep him around, but they don't have too much cap space, so why not just move forward with Bijan and let Tyler Algier hit the open market? At number 4, we've got Deebo Samuel. I think he's on the way out. I think he's making his return to San Francisco. I think it makes way too much sense because they have Ricky Pearsall, but outside of that, no one really else. Juwan Jennings, also a free agent. I know he's a little bit more high profile than this list, but Juwan Jennings will likely be out of the door because he kind of demands a lot of money here. He had a great 2025. Teams like Tennessee or any team where he could be the wide receiver 1 for a young quarterback are going to be interested. But for Deebo, he's on the back end of his career, and I think he's just chasing the chance to get his final Super Bowl here with one last run, give it one more go, and what better way to go back to the place that he kind of made his whole career out of in San Francisco. They're going to be needing of weapons early in 2026 with George Kittle probably missing the first handful of weeks, and they can't afford to keep giving Christian McCaffrey over 400 plus touches, so Deebo can ease that stress, and he would make a great return for the Niners. Into the top 3, it's going to be our cover photo here, Kyle Pitts. Yes, I know he's not the most under-the-radar guy, but over the course of the past few years, he's been very slept on, and he plays like a wide receiver. He had over 900 receiving yards in 2025. The Falcons made it clear that they're going to try and keep him in free agency, but if the price gets too high, which I think it will, he could definitely move on. So teams like New England, like I mentioned before, or Tennessee, these teams with a lot of cap room and a young quarterback are going to be itching to get their hands on Kyle Pitts. He fits the timeline of the young quarterback because he's just at the beginning of his potential stretch here into his prime. I think he's deserving of whatever money you pay him, and I don't think Arthur Smith in years prior and offensive coordinator Zach Robinson really did the best job of incorporating Kyle Pitts into where he's most effective. He was never really like the true form of the game plan, but whichever team signs him is going to be a big priority to get Kyle Pitts involved early and often, which I think is going to be great, and he's going to be very, very relevant in 2026. And then at number 2, we've got Wan'Dale Robinson. Yes, he was the shortest wide receiver ever in NFL history to record over 1,000 receiving yards in 2025. I know the Giants want to keep him with Jackson Dart and Malik Nabers, but you already have so many weapons, and they might just run out of money. With Nabers, Slayton, and a few other tight ends in their rotation, if you sign a discount wide receiver, you could have all the weapons you need. So I think they're going to try and keep Wan'Dale, but don't be surprised if a team tries to poach him to be their wide receiver 2, like a team like New Orleans, who want to see if Tyler Shuck is their guy going forward. Pair him with Chris Olave. That would be amazing. He's great in those short yard of scrimmage, intermediate targets, yards after the catch. But Jameis Winston came in and really showcased that Wan'Dale can go long. He is a deep threat if you use him correctly. So that'll be a fascinating narrative to follow this offseason where Wan'Dale Robinson goes. And before we get to number one, I would love it if you guys hit the subscribe button. It truly means a lot. But let's get right back into it. At number one, it is going to be Malik Willis. Yes, a lot of quarterbacks in this free agency. You're talking about Daniel Jones, but one under-the-radar guy is Malik Willis. Obviously drafted to Tennessee and was kind of an outcast for the first few years. He was disappointing, but with Matt LaFleur, similar to like Sam Darnold did, once you get good coaching, everything starts to open up. And he looked very efficient in the rushing game and in the passing game. He was a great passer whenever they needed him with Jordan Love down to injury. I think he's capable of taking a transition team to the playoffs, a team like Arizona or Miami, where they need a quarterback for the intermediate future while they don't have any 2026 draft capital. I think they're going to pay top dollar to Malik Willis, and I think he's going to be able to make it happen. I think you just need a solid offensive line, and he's going to pose a lot of issues for defenses just due to his rushing ability, and his kind of accuracy that he showed in 2025 is a skill of Willis. But that is going to do it for the 12 NFL sleepers going into 2026 free agency. Feel free to leave me a comment which one is your favorite and which one you want your team to sign this offseason, and that is going to do it. Peace.